Welcome back to Who Cares podcast. So today we're here with Cameron from Beanbag Care, and we've really wanted to dig in today some more around digital stuff. And Vic, we've grabbed Vic back from Unicare, so she's been here on the last one too. So Cameron, do you want to introduce yourself and what you do before we get started?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Cameron. I'm a business development manager for Beanbag Care, and I've worked now in the telecare industry for about 4 years. So I've seen a lot about what it's involved in.
Steep learning curve?
Something like that.
And Vic, please introduce yourself again.
So I'm Vic, and as John said, I work for Unicare. I look after some of our supported living units over in Exmouth.
Thank you. So today we really wanted to dig into a little bit around the digital switchover that has or hasn't happened and what that may feel like, and also the future of telecare in the UK, because we're about to hit a real challenging time within the care industry, and telecare gives a real big option. So we'll dig into that a bit later. Cameron, do you want to just run into a little bit around why it's important to talk about the switchover and where we are with it, really? Because things have moved on or haven't.
Well, and that's the interesting part, I suppose. You are right in saying, I suppose it both has and hasn't happened. The initial communications of retiring the Anolog lines, which is where all of this started, I suppose, were sent out back in 2017, so quite a while ago, to be honest. And I think there was, at the time, some confusion over quite how that would look. I think it was a thing that needed to happen, but there wasn't necessarily the full planning behind it. So we just went along and put some basic communications out there, and people will look at it down the line. As per the initial plan from the government, they were changing the lines over and they were putting digital infrastructure in, which is needed. The old analog systems are quite, as we say, very old. They're not as reliable anymore. There's been a lot of communication failures, which has sadly ended in disaster for quite a few people. So, yeah, it's been ongoing for a while. There's not been as much education, I suppose, around it as what's need be, and some people have been switched and not necessarily been made aware of it. Some people have absolutely no idea what it is. There's been an issue around communication, I suppose, I would say.
Well, I think from the public's point of view, and me being public and very naive with this, you sort of hear these things on passing, don't you? You don't think too much of it, but it's a real big reason why they're doing this, isn't it? I mean, because analog is a really dated technology now, isn't it?
It is.
And a minute ago you were touched on digital being so much more reliable. So why is it taking so long? Why do you think it's taking so long? Is it just too big a job, or just that people just haven't been funded right? Or
I don't think people are prepared for it. I think it was one of those things, as I think we do with a lot of things in life, where it was, we'll sort it out eventually. People have been using the same sort of, and by people, providers I should say, have been using the same technology for years now, and they've replaced it on a needs basis, I suppose.
So when you say provider, you mean like BT and people like that?
Well, so technology providers or people in local general, authorities, housing, etc. So the people that are providing the equipment to those most vulnerable have just used the same things for years. And I've seen that myself. I mean, as I say, I've been in the industry for a while, and I used to go into a lot of establishments that had very dated technology and stuff that was held together with sellotape and plasters, if you can believe it.
What's wrong with that? Come on, we've all had that.
Well, no, it's a fair point. It's I think a lot of people have just, brushed it aside, I suppose would be the only way that I'd say it. And
do you think, though, that in life, I mean, we have these really great bits of innovation that are rolled out to us, not with us, to us, and they don't feel very important to us. The technology we've got is dated, it works. It's wrapped up with sellotape, but it still works. My doorbell sort of hanging off, but it still rings. And I think in society, sometimes we're very much like that. Everyday life takes over, doesn't it? And we're going, I've got more pressing things to do, worrying about broadband. However, that said, when you get a new bit of technology that's working efficiently and is digital, it's so much more efficient, so much more reliable.
It is.
You're a bit of a techie person. What are you thinking about this conversation?
I think if it works really well, it just makes life a lot easier. But I get the sellotape and sticky plasters. There's always, especially within the industry we're in, there's always something else that needs doing, and we can be firefighting. And I feel like sometimes we, all of our care plans and things like that we do are online.
Yeah.
And I have multiple people saying that they can't upload something or they can't download something, and it's just because the data's dipped in and out. And it seems to be with a lot of providers, when we have O2 and EE, is as long as it's working outside of a property, it's fine. They don't concentrate when it's working inside of a property, and that seems to be a lot of our issues with the area that we're looking at the moment.
Well, quite openly, we've had our own challenges here. I mean, we've been digital, but it hasn't been set up properly. In the last few weeks, we've had to literally get a specialist in to completely redo all of our digital environments, and now it's working brilliantly. We've got 300 or 400 megabits per second on every computer, where the other week we might have had 10 here and 5 there and 200 upstairs. So it just goes to show, if you invest in a bit of common sense around the digitisation yourself and don't rely on everyone else, you can really enhance your own benefits to having that tech. And for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, we had days where my office team was sat doing nothing because they're just fighting fires with the broadband. And I think this is where a bit of education comes, isn't it? If you put a little bit of forward thinking in, you can prevent all that happening.
You can. And the thing is as well, there's so much more that you can do with the digital technology. So the older equipment I mentioned there was very much reactive. And I suppose that's what everybody been used to for ages. And leading back into the points made earlier about the communication for this is that, people have just not utilised, I guess, the bits of knowledge that are out there as best can be. And unfortunately, I would say the people that had initially put in the equipment that are referred to, the analog stuff, no longer work in the industry. And nobody's really picked up the responsibility since because they haven't had to. They've just done it, as I say, on a needs basis, which is, not very often.
And I think there's also a risk, isn't there, that when you move from analog to digital, people try and cut corners. So they might replace half of something with a new bit of tech, and then it doesn't really work properly because the digital is so much more advanced. It doesn't quite mesh properly together with the analog. And I think sometimes there's almost biting the bullet, and it might cost you a little bit more initially, but actually you get a much better product afterwards.
I agree. And I think there's been a lot of promise to various people that are using this technology, or the people purchasing it, I should say, to give to the people using it. They've been told that they can use converter equipment that will sit inside of a sort of central control box. Again, hasn't been massively reliable. It's an area for improvement, let's just say. They've also been promised that they can use the cloud to convert the signal over as well. Again, that hasn't been massively reliable. So, and have just replaced, as you say, parts of the system because that will just somehow, I suppose, in their eyes, improve things. But eventually, it just costs them a lot more down the line. But I would say it's a fear of the unknown, massively.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know, do you?
No.
You literally, if you have no idea of what you're doing, you're relying on what you think is common sense and best guessing and some ad hoc information that you've got off Facebook because it seems like a good idea because Facebook's God, isn't it?
Well,
But also, one of the things that really, I keep talking about, we're talking about digital in general, we're talking about digital hardware, software, and all sorts of stuff. We're not just talking about broadband, but for me, I'm mentioning broadband because there's a real thing around broadband, a naivety really, because we've seen a lot of the analog cables that they're talking about being stripped out in some places, not at all in others. And there's a misconception that sometimes they're saying it's full broadband, and then when you get it, it's only 70 meg because it's full broadband up to the end of your road, and the last bit's copper. But what we have seen, especially around main towns, is there's much more broadband direct to the properties now. And what I think people don't understand about that is it gives you a lot of options for providers. So as where historically you might have gone Virgin, like we have, because Virgin have their own lines, it's really, really fast. Because you've got broadband direct lines now, there's so many other providers you can go to. So you can go online and literally search full fibre providers, and there's so many who do a much cheaper deal, they're sometimes more reliable. And I think it's urged people to do your research more. Don't just rely on the old names just because they're people you've heard of. There's so many really good companies out there who are delivering the infrastructure stuff, And there's also lots of companies out there like Beanbag Care who are delivering some really good products around drone safety and welfare.
Yes.
And it's always worth, isn't it, sitting down with somebody like from your team or from another company's team and saying, this is how I live my life. This is how my mum lives her life. But I'm really concerned about A, B, C, and D. How can we mitigate that risk through some digital tech?
I agree with you, and I think this really has shaken things up, I suppose, this switchover, and it has allowed people, I suppose, to go out and look at new things, and but because they've not had to necessarily do it for so long, that they just haven't really seen the point, and then they've opened their eyes, and there's so many things out there, but as much as having a lot of options can be a good thing at times, it can also be a bad thing, as we know that with anything in life, you get overwhelmed.
How many times do you sit on telly and flick through a million channels and waste half an hour and then you go to sleep because you haven't seen anything?
Well, and this is it. I mean, I suppose I was the last of the generation that can remember just the 5 channels, and I've been given too many options. After that now, I do find myself in that position, and that's the same as people that are exploring the market for purchasing new technology. So, and that's it. There's not a one-size-fits-all. I think this is where a lot of people previously have just put in one device and that's fine, that'll suit everybody, and it's not the case, and we are advancing. We are massively advancing.
But again, I think sometimes people do it in haste, don't they? Do it really reactively. You know, when we're talking about care, which is our industry, which is your industry too. You know, I'm going to quickly buy something because my mum's had a fall. Not I'm going to buy something because my mum might have a fall. And we've got to really change the mindset, haven't we, to that preventative.
Massively.
How do we stop this from happening? And it's tech such as yours that can really help with that. But you do have to have the digital infrastructure in place to resolve that. Now, we just had a really great podcast with your colleague around the gap of infrastructure. And that is a problem, isn't it? And I think with the switchover being so delayed, it's also causing a knock-on effect with the gap, isn't it? I would imagine.
It has. And I think... unfortunately, I would say that it's the extension has been taken the wrong way by some people. So I think seeing it as an opportunity now just to delay it again, but it's
so.
not.
So when you say extension, because listeners might not have any idea what we're talking about. So when you're talking about extension, you're talking about the official move from analog to digital date was December or
this year,
2025.
Yes. Yeah.
And where has it been moved to now?
January 2027, the end of. And it's one thing I've tried to explain to many people over the years is it's not like there's one master switch which will just change everything over. It is being done as we speak, and I think that again is where there's been maybe a communication failure. And a few people I've spoken to have now just believe that they've got right up until that end date, and it is not. I mean, it may have, depending on how BT roll it out, but yeah, their area could be switched with very little.
I mean, in real terms, that's not that far away from where we are now. That said, it's a massive job. Do we even really think they're going to be ready by then? I mean, when we look at the movements they've made in the last 2017 initially, when you said they first mentioned it, that seemed like a long time ago now. You know, it's 7 years and no 8 years, 8 years, and we're still not there. So, is an extension of 2 years going to make the difference? Do you think?
I suppose the optimistic side of me would say that it would. The realistic side of me, which surfaces from time to time. No, I don't believe that will be the case, because I genuinely thought the pressure. Now, because I mean, I've seen people move, and I've seen people kind of go on. I thought by 2025, my naivety when I started in this industry, that would be it, but no. So if they push it back once, and given the nature and the vulnerability of some people, I can't see that they will just switch everything over until they are 100. Well, they wouldn't, sorry, but whether everybody will be ready by 2027, I'm not sure.
And also, I mean, it ties in, doesn't it? I mean, that doubt in my mind. I mean, I'm usually a really positive person. I'm really sort of, we can do this. But I'm sort of looking at sort of England as a whole and the budget restraints, and all we're hearing is taxes are going up and all this, that, and the other. And let's not get political, but I think the money. Is the money even there to sink into the amount of infrastructure change that we're going to need? And I'm really doubting it. So, that said, there's lots of things I probably would think that you can do to help yourself. I mean, have you got any sort of advice that you think about that people can do to sort of try and help themselves? If they're not if they're still analog now, what could they do to try and bring themselves forward before?
Well, I suppose as the individual, it's quite hard if they don't necessarily know what it is that they're meant to be looking for. I suppose just educating themselves as best as possible through the tools that are out there. I mean, there have been, maybe not as many as what there could be, there have been communications sent out to people. There have been various advertisements that have also been issued. And I think it is just, instead of avoiding it or ignoring it, it is trying to, as best as possible, understand it. Or if you can't, as the person that may be using it, speak to somebody that you know that will be able to, and go and seek support from community centres, from your local authorities, from various charities that are involved in it as well. So I'd say that's probably the best thing you could do as
just
a person.
to sort of do some research and see what you can do. I mean, with every positive, there's always a risk, isn't there? I mean, Vic, you're like a tech guru. You sort of, I sort
That's impression out.
Well, I sort of come in. I like tech, and I'm like, Vic, just fix this. And sometimes she does, and sometimes she doesn't. And sometimes we sort of go, oh, that didn't really work. No. But I think, Vic, from your point of view, I mean, you look at risks a lot because of your job. I mean, what risks are around moving from analog to digital, and what things would we be thinking that we need to think about? If you're a family member or you're a person who has a need yourself, you've said do the research and find out all the bits and pieces about how you can benefit and how you can change. What have you got to consider to keep you safe?
I think, I think you can do the research, but I think a lot of people that we support don't have the knowledge or skills to be able to do that. So for a pressure on the care industry and the people that are on the ground and doing it, especially the support workers, it's something else additional that we have to add to their day-to-day tasks that are already normally time restrained, to then try and educate the people or support the people that have this, that don't have families or anybody else, or are elderly and don't have the internet, or something needs to go in place, or the supported living and don't have that understanding. It's the extra time and pressures on the people that are already at that point.
So as I'm sat here as your colleague and somebody that can also help, if other directors are listening and other companies are listening, do you think it would be a helpful thing to train your staff in these sort of things? Because obviously we train our staff in moving and handling, we train our staff in medication, we train our staff in all these things. Should we now, as looking forward in the future, be saying we need to train you to a certain level of technology, ability and understanding so you can help facilitate a transfer with said clients? Is that something that you think that we should be doing as directors?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something we should be looking into, because for the care industry, and COVID was a huge time when we realised this, is we're the people that are going in and out of the houses. We're the people that go into the rural places. We're the people that they might only see that day. So I think to have a basic skill of how we can support those people is, we can do that as the company.
So how you might help them lock down their internet to keep them safe, how you might move them from analog to digital, all those sort of things might be quite helpful, wouldn't they? Yeah. And from a company like Beanbag's perspective, is that something that you guys might even be interested in doing? Is doing some podcasts like this and around how to facilitate, how to keep people safe and change? I mean, obviously I'm putting you on the spot. I love putting people on the spot.
No, that's fine. I embrace it.
But I think there's, as you talk, you sort of learn as you talk, don't you? Things come into perspective. And I think when we're talking about an analog to digital switchover, I mean, your colleague Claire, she's a wonderful lady, and she was sort of saying, some people don't really want to come over. There's a real lack of understanding sometimes, all these sort of things. So I think if you have somebody who's in receipt of care and they see people like Vic 3 or 4 times a day, there's a trust there anyway. And if they know they've been trained to help them with digital, that may move these laggards who don't want to be digital into a new age and really transform their lives, mightn't it? And I always think that when you look at companies like yourselves, you're really ahead of the game with your thinking. I mean, lots of companies like you are, but I think you've thought about this 10 years ago when we were all still scratching around changing pads and getting people drinks. So I think there's something about working with companies like yourself to say, what can we put in place to train our staff that's going to facilitate a change, that's going to help us digitise the way we all work, and also change the thinking and perception of digital stuff. So companies like yours can embed technology in a more efficient way and a more accepting way, because sometimes it's really hard for people to accept digital, isn't it?
Massively. I mean, it's a hard task. I'll be honest. It's there is technology has been rejected. It should be by quite a lot of people, to be honest, both the people that would be using it and the people behind it, I suppose. And from a staffing perspective, I should say, not the providers themselves, so that would be very confusing. But yeah, it's meant to make people's lives easier. That is the whole point of it, and essentially more efficient. And I think, yeah, all I can say to that comment, I suppose, it just needs to be more education, and as providers we do educate people on the benefits of it, and try and reduce the fear as well, and show real life ways that it can benefit them, because I suppose myself as somebody not using tech within this industry but in general life, like, I don't always see the benefit of something until somebody's shown me it, and I, as anybody wouldn't necessarily know that I needed something until I know that I need it.
And that's the funny thing, isn't it? It's like a lot of innovation, isn't it? You know, I love as a thought of, you know, I quite often will say, you've got innovators and you've got people that think ahead, and that person might be 1 out of 100. And then what I mean by that is, sometimes if you go back, and I really like what you said, you don't always know you need it. If you go back to, say, 1990, and you walk through the streets of any town and you say, what's the next computer going to be? 99 people would have 100 would have said, bigger screens and a bigger box. One person would have said, actually, it's going to be a tablet, it's going to be an iPad. And nobody would have ever thought, I need an iPad. Now everybody's got a tablet, everyone's got an iPad, everyone's got a mobile phone, and we really rely on them. And I think that's where we have to be really quite cute here, isn't it? And say, you know, it's not that you're naive, it's not but you're not thinking about it in the same way. What we can see as innovators, and companies like yours are innovating companies, we can see this coming along. We know the technology is here. We know the infrastructure is coming. This is going to really help you mitigate the risks. And this is what we mean by that. And literally show them this data will not stop you from falling, but help you to reduce the risk of falling. It may well be because we're going to hydrate you more. It may well be that we're going to look at trip patterns. It may well be that we're going to understand your sleep patterns more. All the things that you can bring through the data. And if you can have that spout out to you, most people go, oh my goodness, I hadn't even considered that.
No. And
I think that's the thing, is, you know, your education through showing is really powerful.
A lot of the conversations I've had over the years, people have had absolutely no idea what technology can actually offer to them. They have, quite as I said earlier, just used the same thing for years and years, which is mostly consisted of a big red button that people press and call for help. But to now, even in the short period of time that I've been in this industry, I've seen the change from that to people now looking at something which can give a full insight into the individual's day-to-day life and essentially prevent them from, needing.
So you're talking, you know, about these aids that give you a warning and an alert. So if somebody fell, you could press a button and go, I'm on the floor, and an analog alarm will go off somewhere, and then you might get a phone call from someone saying, we think your mum's on the floor somewhere. We don't know where, we just know they're on the floor somewhere. As well, the new digital technologies that you're referring to, the things that you've been looking at, Vic, will say they're in the front room, they're on the floor by the fire, or whatever. So highlighting these things are really important, and that's the difference, isn't it, between analog and digital. It's all in the detail, isn't it? So analog is almost like a great big wide net that is thrown out and hoping it's going to catch them, and digital is very focused. It gives you the data in real time about a specific thing or need. How do we do this then, Vic? Can you save Britain?
I'm not sure I can save Britain. I think for our guys in the care industry, I think, you know, teaching the people that go and visit them, people that are helping them already, to have a better understanding themselves, to then be able to, and it's person-centred. There's somebody that might be scared of having that technology or not understanding it. Could be that they really miss their family that live somewhere else. So do we just start having photos coming across their devices or their tellies, and that's how they then start to engage in it.
Video calls or whatever. Yeah,
because we've got so many people where families live abroad. You know, and they can't they may talk on the phone, or sometimes we have people that can't even hear on the phone. So pictures are a great way, or like you said about cooking earlier, and having that interaction with them. So I think making the staff aware and them already knowing these people person-centred will really help.
I think that's a really nice way of thinking about it, isn't it? And these things just couldn't have been achieved on Anolog, really, could they?
No,
it just couldn't happen at all. So, obviously, we're going to bring this to a close now, Cameron. Thank you for your time. I mean, what do you want to leave us with? Have you got any final thoughts around this first to telecare in the UK moving forward, and this gap that hasn't really happened of moving analog to digital?
Yeah, I think probably just the importance of stressing that this is happening. It's not going away. Whilst it may have been delayed once, it can't just keep being delayed forever. The reason for the switchover is that the analog lines are failing all the time. So even if you are not necessarily wanting to move over to digital and you think that your analog system can last forever, it can't, and people can't be left vulnerable. And we have seen real life situations where people have, sadly. So yeah, I suppose it's not to ignore it, not to be scared of it, and to keep your mind open to the opportunities that it may bring to improve lives.
Yeah, one thing I do want to ask, though, is there any priority cases? So if you've got somebody who's in a rural community who's got analog now and they really have to have a line out, is there a priority list, do you know, that they can contact? We can say, look, maybe they I don't know, maybe they're quadriplegic, maybe they're in bed all the time and they have 24-hour care and they have to have lines in and out for comms, and they're on an old analog line for broadband and things. There's a priority list, do you know, or is it just first come first serve and you'll get to you at some point?
I believe there is. I would be lying if I said I knew the full process involved with that. But yes, I believe there are records of where people that are the most vulnerable will be prioritised over others. But areas are being upgraded, and there's no direct science behind it, unfortunately. So parts of the UK are just being changed whenever they're being changed, and communications are being sent out and giving people 90 days in which to switch over, essentially, which isn't a very long time.
Not very.
Well, it might seem it, but it's not. From that initial stage of the letter to getting the letter, to making the inquiries with the relevant people, and getting it out, showing people how to use it. It's not a long time.
And it's just not important, is it? Like you said, I mean, the analog's sort of working, and you're busy, and you've got life going on. It's not that important. So 90 days will just disappear, won't it? Last but not least, because as I'm going through, I'm just thinking. So what about things like Starlink? I mean, are they any good? I've not come across. I don't know what Starlink's like. Have you ever know anybody's used it? Is it a good thing for rural communities to think about?
Can't say I'm familiar with that, if I'm being completely honest.
Elon Musk's satellites that are whizzing around.
Oh, right, okay.
I understand that I just come back on holiday and they had Starlink on the plane, and I logged into it and it was 230 meg on the plane on my phone. So
that's mind blowing for me, actually.
That's not bad, is it? Qatar Air flying through the air, 230 megabits per second, downloading films and all sorts of stuff. Wow. So I think that's another thing to think about, isn't it? There's lots of different digital technologies out there that can really help you. And yes, they might have a cost attached to them, but actually, if you've got a need, it's worth having a look, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And I think as time goes on and as we become more comfortable with technology, it will become a lot easier to get it out there, because we all benefit from it.
We certainly do. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, Cameron.
Thank you.
I'm going to even press this button for you, because this is a round of applause. You can't hear it because you've got headphones on, but it's brilliant. All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Take care.